Older men who venture in relationships with younger women are usually motivated by a mixture of fascination, physical attraction, and a desire to feel revitalized. Often, they believe that their experience, maturity, and stability can fill any emptiness caused by the generational difference. However, what many of them end up discovering is that youth is not only a physical state, but an energy, a life approach, a rhythm that does not always synchronize with their own. Here lies the lesson they did not anticipate. Initial chemistry can be explosive, the contrast between the new and the experienced, between curiosity and wisdom accumulated over the years. But in the intimate field, where skin and emotions meet, the real challenge emerges. Provocation can be mutual, but synchronization is essential. A young woman, with her vibrant energy and a different sense of what pleasure means, seeks more than a physical act. Search connection, an experience that goes beyond surface contact. For many men, this connection requires unlearning what they thought they knew about sexuality. What worked in the past is not enough. Seduction is now more complex. It is not just about words or gestures, but about being present, of understanding that intimacy is a dynamic exchange. A man who is not willing to adapt, listen, to explore and learn, will soon face the harsh reality that youth is not simply something that can be possessed, it is something that needs to be shared in its own terms. The age difference can also expose vulnerabilities. An older man may feel insecure about his ability to satisfy a younger couple, while she can question whether her interest is genuine or if she is simply being seen as a decorative figure that enlivens the ego. This is where the importance of honesty and communication comes into play, recognizing limits. Expressing desires and establishing clear expectations can transform a superficial experience into something significant and enriching for both. In addition, sexuality is not just about what happens at the intimate moment, but also how it is built outside it. The previous game begins long before physical contact. It is the conversations, the looks, the small attention that build a bridge between generations. A man who is able to appreciate and admire the complexity of a young woman beyond her physique, who gives her space to be herself, without attempts to control or domination, is much closer to discovering real and satisfactory intimacy. However, some men do not learn this lesson. They cling to an outdated idea of masculinity, believing that their position, their status, or their experience are sufficient to conquer and maintain the attention of a young woman. In these cases, the result is usually an emotional disconnection, where the relationship becomes uneven, unsatisfactory, and even unsustainable. On the other hand, those who are humble enough to recognize that there is always something new to learn, they find that intergenerational relationships can be deeply transformative. Youth can be a spark that revives its curiosity and energy, while its maturity can offer guidance and support that transcends superficiality. Ultimately, the greatest lesson that an older man can learn by relating to a younger woman is that pleasure and connection are not based on age differences, but on the ability to find himself at a midpoint where both feel valued, respected, and desired. Sex, at the end of the day, is just a part of something much broader, the search for mutual understanding, an emotional connection, and an experience that enrich their lives. When age barriers stop seeing as an obstacle and transforms into an opportunity to learn and grow, a space where sexuality can flourish unexpected ways, instead of trying to replicate patterns of the past. The older man who enters a relationship with a younger woman has the possibility of rediscovering desire from a deeper approach, leaving behind rigid expectations and exploring what intimacy really means. Human desire does not have a fixed formula. It does not respond solely to physical attractiveness or accumulated experience. It is a shared language, which requires adaptability, sensitivity, and an understanding that each encounter is unique. This is where many older men discover that, although they may have decades of experience, there is always something new to learn. A younger woman brings with him a different approach, perhaps more free, perhaps more curious, who challenges preconceived ideas and demands full presence. It is not about impressing with grandiloquent gestures, but about showing authenticity, of being willing to listen, to respond, and let the moment evolve without forcing anything. The provocation, that spark that ignites the fire of desire, also acquires new nuances in these relationships. It is not just a matter of seducing or being seduced. It is a game that implies the same level of participation. The young woman does not look for a teacher, nor the older man needs to prove something. What really builds a connection is the ability to create a space where both can express themselves freely. In this sense, vulnerability becomes a powerful tool. Recognizing your own fears and insecurities, instead of hiding them after a facade of trust, can disassemble any barrier and allow the relationship to reach a much more intimate level. In addition, it is important to note that sexuality in this context is not limited to physical encounter. It goes further, entering the territories of respect, admiration, and curiosity for the other. An older man who really understands what it means to connect with someone younger does not try to impose their rules, but seeks to understand her, adapt, grow, and discover new horizons together. In this exchange, both have something to offer and something to learn, and this reciprocity is what makes the relationship prosper. However, not every man is prepared to assume this challenge. Some are trapped in a superficial approach, where the age difference becomes a symbol of status, a way of feeding their ego or reaffirming its masculinity. These cases, although common, are rarely in a lasting connection. The young woman, conscious or not, will look for more than a reflection of vanity. He will want authenticity, genuine interest, and, above all, respect for his individuality. On the other hand, those men who understand that true power is in the ability to adapt, listen, and build something that transcends time and differences, will find that these relationships can be a source of personal and emotional growth. Age may seem like a barrier from outside, but for those who are inside, it becomes a bridge towards mutual understanding. It is in this space where the initial provocation, that game of attraction and mystery, becomes something much deeper, a shared experience. If you want to discover the best advice I could give you, stay until the end of the video. If you like this type of videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more videos like this. That enriches both and leaves a mark beyond the moment. Ultimately, the lesson that many older men learn in these relationships does not have so much to do with age and humanity. They discover that true satisfaction is not in what can be conquered, but in what can be shared. And it is in this realization where sexuality becomes more than a physical act. It becomes a language, a dance, a connection that challenges the barriers of time and leaves a mark in the soul. As the relationship develops, sexuality also evolves. What begins as an attraction driven by youth, beauty, and vitality, can be transformed into something much more complex and deep. The age difference, far from being an insurmountable gap, becomes an opportunity to enrich the relationship with different perspectives, different rhythms, and vital experiences that, although separated by the years, are intertwined in a unique way. In this context, older men begin to understand that desire is not only physical, it is also loaded with emotions, thoughts, and mental connections that arise as both share moments outside the bedroom. such as dinners, walks or simple conversations. The real challenge, however, is to keep that initial spark alive when emotions begin to weave beyond the superficial, when sex is no longer only a physical exchange, but an expression of what it feels, what is shared and what you want. The relationship becomes more complex. This is where men who have cultivated an open and curious mentality, who are willing to continue learning and adapting, discover a completely new facet of sexuality, one that transcends the act in itself. It is not just about please, but to share, to be vulnerable, to accept that desire can be as varied as people themselves. A man who is not willing to leave his comfort zone, who is still looking for satisfaction only in the known, can hardly achieve real satisfaction. The young woman, with her fresh vision and her willingness to experiment, can help an older man to explore new forms of desire, new ways to find pleasure and satisfaction that perhaps had not considered before. Provocation, which at first may seem a superficial game, is actually an invitation to a deeper exploration. It is about discovering what really excites each one, which makes the other feel desired, which opens the doors to intimacy beyond the physical. As experiences are shared, limits are negotiated and the forms of pleasure that work for both are discovered, the relationship becomes much more than a simple encounter between two bodies. No matter what counts is the desire to continue learning, to continue discovering, to continue growing together. In the end, those older men looking for relationships with younger women with an open and mature mentality are the ones who are more likely to find a genuine and satisfactory connection. They do not seek that their partner admires them only because of their experience or status, but seek to share authentic moments, where both can express themselves freely, without unreal judgments or expectations. This is the lesson that many learn sooner or later, that age does not define the desire or value of a relationship. What matters is the ability to connect, share and grow, not only in the physical, but in the emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. Sexuality, then, becomes a shared trip, a path that does not have a fixed goal, but is built as the steps are traveled together. And it is in this walk where the true pleasure is located, that it does not depend on age, but on the will of both of being present for each other, to learn, give and receive, and discover together what it means, the desire in all its forms. On this shared trip, sexuality becomes a constant exploration, where each encounter is an opportunity to deepen more in emotional and physical connection. Experience is no longer measured in terms of what has been lived, but in what is willing to live and share. The older men who understand this do not simply seek the novelty of a relationship with a younger woman, but the challenge of reinventing her own desire and her vision of pleasure. It is a reinvention that allows them to leave behind routine and previous expectations, and open to new forms of intimacy that perhaps never imagined possible. This type of relationship also invites you to reflect on the concept of power within sexuality. In many cases, it is assumed that the older man has control, either by his experience or by his position in society. However, what many discover is that true power in a sexual relationship lies in the ability to give in and receive, to give space to the other to be vulnerable and share their wishes, without falling into rigid roles. The young woman, on the other hand, often has the opportunity to question this power, pushing the limits of what has traditionally been understood as the expected sexual behavior of a couple of their age, and offering a fresh vision, without prejudice, that you can enrich the encounter. It is in this exchange of energies and perspectives that sexuality becomes something much more than a simple physical act. It becomes a silent conversation between two bodies and two souls, a dialogue of looks, touches and whispers that say more than words can express. Men who learn to accept this dynamic, who do not feel threatened by the youth or freshness of their partner, but see it as a source of inspiration and revitalization, are those who experience full and satisfactory sexuality. Throughout this process, many men also discover that sexuality is not just about seeking immediate gratification, but about building a long-term relationship based on confidence and mutual respect. The emotional and psychological connection becomes the pillar on which a healthy and balanced sex life is built. This is a crucial aspect that is often overlooked in relationships of this type. The importance of nourishing the relationship beyond sex, developing open and honest communication, and working together to understand the desires and expectations of the other. For some men, this lesson is late. They realize after several failed attempts or frustrations, that sexual satisfaction is not guaranteed only by the age difference or the resources that one can contribute. True satisfaction comes from genuine reciprocity, from the mutual desire to please and be pleased, explore and enjoy together. In this sense, age ceases to be a barrier and becomes an opportunity to enrich the relationship with life experiences, different perspectives, and a more open and exploratory sexuality. The man who is willing to learn from his partner, which is allowed to be vulnerable and open, and who does not conform to what he already knows, is the one who has the most chance of finding a rewarding sexual relationship. He realizes that youth is not only reflected in the body, but also in the open mentality, in the willingness to experiment, in the energy that is put in the present moment, and in the end, it is this mutual provision to enjoy the here and now what makes any difference, either age or experience, diluted, leaving only the genuine connection between two people who have learned to share beyond the barriers of conventional sexuality. Thus, the lesson that many older men learn by being with younger women is that sexuality is not a battlefield or a game of power, but a space where vulnerability, communication, and mutual respect create an environment where desire can grow and prosper. Sex becomes a dance, where both, regardless of age, learn the rhythm of the other, discover new forms of satisfaction, and enjoy a richer and more deep intimacy that defies the pre-established norms and expectations. Give the video a like if you liked it and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more videos about this content. Leave a comment so we can know your opinion, and we will take it into account for future videos.